And tomorrow night, we have a movie we showed back in November.
Dello Stritto, talking about movies.
Hey, Frank.
How's it going? We haven't got much time left, I guess, huh?
We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
And it's I'll tell you, next week we got My Favorite Brunette, and then Shame the week after that.
All right.
But I will email you them.
Okay, very good.
And you know what movie this is tomorrow night at 9?
That is the 1932 A Farewell to Arms with Gary Cooper and Helen Hayes. And I just watched it to refresh my memory, and I'm always struck by the camera work of this movie, so I'll mention the cinematographer's name. And in our show, we don't give enough credit to cinematographers, but
That's right.
this has a very haunting look, and the cinematographer's name is Charles Lang, and most people have never heard of him, but the cinematographers have. He was one of the greats of the 1930s, and he had quite a style, and I urge people to pay attention to the camera angles. There's subjective shots. There's one haunting shot when Gary Cooper is flat on his back on a stretcher, and he's led through the hospital. So you see the ceilings and people looking down on him. But there's shots like that all through the movie, kind of haunting camera angles, and it's really effective. It's got a German feel to it, what I call a German feel, and that means making good expressionistic use of shadows and light. It's not you wouldn't call it a brightly lit film. Most of the scenes are kind of dim. There's shadows in it, and it's very effective. And it was surprising. I didn't, you don't get the impression, except for Gary Cooper, you wouldn't get the impression you were watching an American movie. The director was, and I'm ashamed to say I've never heard his name spoken out loud. His name was Frank Borghese. Maybe that's how he pronounced it. And he was born in America, in Utah, but his father was Italian and his mother was Swiss, and this movie takes place in Italy and Switzerland. So it's like a homecoming for him. And he was a great director of the early 30s, and he dealt with a lot of touchy topics. And Hemingway's novel had some elements in it that didn't square well with 1930 censorship. And I think I remember reading about it. I didn't have a lot of time in this. A lot of that was filmed, but they had to cut it or change it or whatever because it was out of wedlock pregnancy, and some of the details of the pregnancy were a bit too explicit for 1930, so that was changed. I understand they filmed 2 separate endings, one a happy and one a sad, and Hemingway got wind of it, and the book has a sad ending, and I've never read the book, I must admit, but he didn't want the typical Hollywood ending, and he was able to prevail. Writers don't usually have a lot of swing in Hollywood, even a man of Hemingway's stature, but somehow he got the true ending put in.
Tenacity more than fame.
Maybe, and this is the first adaptation of a Hemingway novel. And so, I mean, the first of many, so, The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man, The Killers, also, all sorts of things were made from his works, but it all starts here.
Now, let me ask a question. The happy ending, do you think it's still on a shelf, or it just never got filmed?
As far as I know, it was filmed. For all I know, the version you're showing, they had the happy ending. I don't know. I understand it was, in the major cities, where it was released with a sad ending, and out in the more rural areas, away from the cities, they gave it the happy ending.
Oh, so he didn't prevail totally.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not the expert on that, and if any of your audience knows, they should call in and give the whole story. But there's probably a lot of history here that I don't know, so I shouldn't go any deeper into it. But this is the classic gripe of novelists, that Hollywood would take their novels and fit them into a formula. And some great movies were made that supposedly the novelists didn't care for at all, but as one not wise man once said, it was my book, but it's their movie. So, they paid the money for the rights, they can do what they want with it.
And that's our show for tonight, Frank Dello Stritto.
Talk to you soon. Next week I'll be calling you from Alaska, because I'm not in town next week.
All right. We'll
Bye-bye.
talk from Alaska. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jimmy Church, Frank Dello Stritto, what a great night. Man, we need 6 hours to do an overnight. Visual Radio, July 5th.
It was